Hello, Cancer, and welcome to your reading for June 15th through June 30th of 2021. Be sure to check out your sun, moon, and rising signs to get a more well-rounded picture for this month's reading. All right, let's go ahead and begin. We are starting out with the Queen of Pentacles, and this was originally reversed, but I'm putting it upright. However, I do believe that the reason why it was reversed was because there's a resistance to what is coming from this message. There is a resistance to something about yourself not accepting aspects of femininity was the first word that came to mind. So there is something about your femininity and your sexuality that there is a bit of a resistance against. Something that has been trying to take root within yourself, or something that is part of your core being or your root being, something that is a foundation of a more authentic version of yourself, and it's tethered to sexuality in some regard, but as a result of that being reversed, there's a feeling, an overall sense of resistance towards this knowing of self, getting to know of yourself and embracing this aspect of yourself. However, the reason why this is coming up is because you are recognizing this about yourself, and some of you may have recognized this for a long time. Some of you may be just coming upon this realization. It doesn't matter either way, but the truth of the matter is you're at a point where you're starting to realize the power and inner strength that resides in this aspect of yourself. How instead of viewing this part of yourself as being something that you need to resist, or being something that you would rather not embrace because you have a disdain towards some aspect of it, there's been a bad taste left in your mouth as a result of whatever you interpret this aspect of yourself. But you're starting to see that instead of seeing this as something that is negative, you should be embracing it and accepting it as part of your strengths and as part of your power. And it is linked to your sexuality in some facet. So however that resonates with you, take note of that, because this is a battle you are facing or on the cusp of facing. I feel that some of you, all together, you're at the beginning of it, no matter where you are. But some of you, you're just coming into it, and some of you've already stepped into it, and you're trying to make sense of it. But either way, you're at the beginning of it. Those of you that are here getting this reading, and this resonates with you. The Page of Wheels is this is touching base with that concept that I said, where it's an aspect of yourself that you've been kind of coming to terms with. And I feel that the fact that it's a page resonates with something that's tethered to your childhood. So the aspects of the cards depends on how they show up in a reading as to how the page is interpreted. And one of the ways page can be interpreted is that in the chapters of your life, this is the childhood aspects. Now, I feel like this is really kind of touching base with things that happened pre-puberty, pre that 13 age, or before the teenage years. So whatever it is that you are facing and potentially feel that it is a shadow, or you have been resisting, and it has come back up and is starting to kind of get into your mind, and you have been contemplating and sort of doing some work with a shadow that you've been trying to embrace or trying to figure out how to get rid of. This is something that you are being asked to look at in such a way that you can better embrace it as a strength, because your constant resistance to it is actually weakening you from your full potential and your full power. But whatever it is, the work that needs to be done, it kind of ties with your shadow work and inner childhood work. So there's something that is connected with an experience, a situation that you experienced during your childhood at some point, that if you can figure out the steps that it takes to resolve and heal and better connect with that situation, it in turn will help you to see and perceive and heal this aspect of self as an adult that you are resisting and need to better connect with. We have the Ten of Swords. This feels like it's just an inner struggle. So the Ten of Swords has to do with, a form of death and at a time where it's time to move on to something else. And I feel like this is, there is an inner conflict, and there's a portion of yourself that you have been hanging on to or clinging to or feeling that you want to stick with because it's your comfort zone. But by holding on to that aspect of yourself, you have to resist and not accept this aspect of yourself. So there's a personification of yourself that you feel comfortable in, and because it's your comfort zone, this aspect allows you to feel confident and therefore strong. But there's a part of you that's starting to recognize that this is not the full potential of your strength. Your full potential of your strength is in this aspect of yourself that you have been resisting. So finding the resolution, doing the work that you need to do as far as shadow work or inner child work, or both, however it applies to you or resonates with you, this is where you're at. This is your key. Figuring out that aspect of yourself that you're clinging to, that's kind of your comfort zone. Recognizing the aspect that despite it being your comfort zone and making you feel comfortable, it's not your strongest point. It's not the aspect you should be clinging to, because it's actually what's keeping you from your full potential. It's keeping you from your full power, fully embracing yourself in your entirety. But you work through all of this. It's not going to be something that you're going to obviously make a decision and suddenly with a snap of a finger, it's all going to be better. But once you figure out how these aspects of yourself fall into place, and the opportunity for this is the last chunk of June. The energies and the opportunities are going to be available for you to work through this. When you work through this, you'll get to a point where you can eventually get to a new beginning, like a rebirth almost. I feel a sense of a rebirth that can happen. You have the potential of a rebirth, a new start. But this has to do, it's all with inner self. This is really very heavily connected with inner work, inner self, not necessarily spirituality. That's dependent and contingent on your focus and how much your life, everyday existence is connected with spirituality. Not all of us have a spirituality interwoven as deeply as others, and that's okay. So however you live your life, be it fully spiritual or with spirituality woven into it, or with just hints of spirituality, it doesn't matter. This isn't necessarily tapping into the spiritual aspect of it, even if this spiritual work helps you get to that point, if that makes sense. So there's definitely getting these puzzle pieces together and figuring out how this all resonates with you and how it can work with you and you can work with it will lead you to a point of a new beginning on a whole that allows you to kind of have, like I said, it's a fresh start, but it's just a fresh start within yourself, fresh embracing of yourself. And because of that, the new possibilities that come from this. Now we do have the Nine of Swords. So this work is definitely going to have you having to face some of that inner dialogue, that inner narrative, and just a portion of yourself that sometimes leaves you feeling a little bit mentally exhausted. So I do believe that this card is being brought forth to let you know that if you need to, and you need, well, let's put it this way, you need to pay attention to the signs. And if you get to a point where you need external help, that being also included professional help, make sure you're aware of that and make sure that you are ready to ask for that should you get too overwhelmed with the inner dialogue, because you're definitely during the process of this going to be facing, like I said, inner dialogue, inner narrative, internal communications that often is deep enough that if you're not careful can make you feel overwhelmed to the point of almost drowning in your own thoughts. So be attentive to that, be wary of that, and be ready to ask for help. Be wary enough that you you see the signs should you need the help, so that you ask for the help when it happens, if it happens. Ultimately, you're seeking for personal truth through all of this. This is the last 2 weeks of June, and I feel like the vibrations and the frequency of this and the frequency of the changes that is going to be possible from this is going to go beyond June into a bit of July, but the bulk of it, sort of the intensity of that frequency and those vibrations of that energy, is going to be those last 2 weeks of June. This is, and the point of it, the purpose of it, and what you're seeking is an internal truth that you feel like you can stand strongly upon. That's going to create a foundation that you feel you can stand firm on and trust and believe in yourself. We have the rescue card also, and I do believe this is kind of going back to that concept of how I said you're going to be facing some things about yourself that you really want to embrace, but you're struggling. There's a resistance, and it has to do with something that happened within your childhood. The roots of that, or the vibration or frequency from that, is what's kind of impacting a lot of this. And ultimately you're rescuing yourself in the process, which is why, like I said, some of the things that you'll be facing is going to be pretty intense, pretty deep, and making sure, again, that you have somebody that you can confide in and trust in. If things get too heavy, make sure that person is nearby, someone that you can call on should you need it, because there's a potential for that, and you just need to be open to that realization and take the cautionary methods or steps that you need to if you're embarking on this particular aspect of your life in your personal journey. Finally, we have, I always trust the direction of the universe and know I'm being guided. I'm a big believer in free will. You always have free will. And I'm being told that you always have the option of stopping the work at any time if it gets too intense. So you must remember that at all times. You can stop and you can just, heal with where you're at and then move from it and return to it should you want to return to it in the future. Should you want to, being the key concept of that statement. But ultimately, you're being guided. You're being guided not only to go into this, but you'll be guided as you go through this. And that's why not only are you getting this message with whatever parts of it resonates with you, but that's also why you're getting the aspect of this part of the message, and that make sure you're taking the precautionary methods that you need should things get too intense or too overwhelming. This is part of the guidance that you're getting from this, making sure that you have the resources at your disposal for every aspect and element of this journey. But if it's something that you wanted to embark upon, you're being guided to do so, and you'll have the guides along with throughout the process. And your guides are letting you know that includes external help should it happen, should it come to that point. But it sounds like it's going to be a very intense next 2 weeks. I hope this kind of helps you prepare yourself and do whatever you need to for personal protection and preservation. In the meantime, I hope June ends up being a wonderful month for you. Remember to check out your sun, moon, and rising signs for a more well-rounded picture or more well-rounded message. And if you want a personal individual reading, I do offer those in the links in the description box below. Otherwise, I hope June ends up being beautiful and productive for you, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.